Hey everybody, welcome back to TechOdyssey. So I'm here today with my full review of the OnePlus 9 Pro. But I've been using it as my primary phone, simming here every single day for over 2 weeks now, and I'm here with a lot of thoughts. But I want to say up front, I like it. I like it a lot. Probably more than a lot of the mainstream contemporary people who've been talking about it since it came out and kind of painting it in a lesser light than I think that it is. But I'm not going to go into that too much, because here today, you're getting my opinion. That's why you're here. And solid phone. Snapdragon 888 processor. You can get up to 12 gigabytes of RAM. Yeah, it has fixed storage, 128 or 256. But unfortunately, I have to say that's pretty much on par with what Samsung and Apple are doing. So, not really a party foul. But they do have the Hasselblad partnership with the color profiling on the phone. It has fantastic cameras, I think. Other people might think differently, but I think they're good. And I'm going to go and talk about all the litany of different things in this phone. But before we get into all that, I do want to say if this is your first time stopping by the channel, thank you for being here. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. Now let's talk about the OnePlus 9 Pro. The first thing that I thought whenever I took this phone out of the box and started playing with it, other than the beautiful color. Now, some people say, okay, silver, gray is not really a color. I think it is. I think it's a really good choice. This Morning Mist, I don't really get on board with that name, but as soon as I saw this phone, like the first time I ever saw it, whenever they announced it, I was like, man, this is gorgeous. I love this phone. So it looks good aesthetically. It's probably one of the best looking phones they've ever made. It's sleek, it's got nice rounded corners, it's got a slightly curved screen on it around the edges, very subtle, very much like the S21 Ultra, and there's no headphone jack, that's not in here. But it does have IP68 dust and water resistance, which people wanted for a long time. It has wireless charging, that's super fast, 50 watt wireless charging, which will recharge from 1 to 100% in about 43 minutes. Pretty stellar. Well, even more stellar than that is with the included, yes, in the box. So this isn't a Samsung where there's no charger in the box. This is not an Apple phone where there's no charger in the box. OnePlus throws the 65 watt charger in the box, 1 to 100 in 29 minutes. And I test it daily. It's got a 4,500 milliamp battery, not the longest lasting battery in the world. And I did make a video called how this is a perfect phone for power users. Here's why, at least Android world anyway. When you look at the S21 Ultra, it's got a 5,000 milliamp battery, pretty much on par specs, and it dies pretty much as fast as this does, if not faster in some cases. I typically get 4.5 to 5.5 hours of battery life on here. I think that's pretty decent for a 4,500 milliamp battery with 120 Hz refresh rate, with Quad HD Plus resolution, with adaptive brightness off, no power saving features whatsoever. I don't use dark mode. So that's great. You get about 4 to 5 hours of screen on time, and that's not like, okay, your phone lasts for 5 hours. That means you've got the phone screen on, you're using it as hard as you want for hours on end, and it gets you 4 to 5 hours. So if you've got an 8-hour workday and you kill it in 5 hours, you probably should have been working more. But yeah, unless you're just using your phone all day long with the screen on, it gets you all day battery life. Now, the great thing about this is you can top it off like that. So you get 1 to 100 in 29 minutes. You can get like 50% in a 15-minute charge. And that's the greatest thing ever. I love it if I need to go out to dinner, if I need to go to the grocery store, if I need to go run an errand, if I'm getting off work and my phone battery is kind of low. Top it off for 15 minutes. Like, just throw it on there for a few minutes and you're good to go. You can practically see the charge go up. It's really, really impressive. So I like that. I do have long-term considerations. I do have long-term concerns about how that's going to impact the battery like down the road, because that's some serious wattage interchanging and going into this lithium power battery. So there is that. But yeah, no headphone jack. It will work with the dongle. Stereo speakers. The speakers are good. They're very good sounding speakers. The volume I wish were a little bit higher. When you look at it from the Samsung perspective, from the iPhone perspective, even my Asus Republic of Gaming 5 phone, this is kind of number 4 on the list. So the speakers are good, but I think they could be louder. But they do sound nice, and people who are not hard of hearing like me will probably enjoy it just fine. I absolutely love the screen on here. In addition to that, it's got a built-in fingerprint sensor under the screen. I was reading an article today from, what is it? Android something, one of the websites. And they had a list of the 5 reasons why you shouldn't buy the OnePlus 9 Pro. You want to know what one of the reasons was? Because the fingerprint sensor placement is too low on the phone. It works perfectly fine. You will notice that when you first fire up the phone and register your fingerprint, if you've used a OnePlus phone in the past, or if you've used other fingerprint sensor, phones that have it under the screen, it's typically a little bit higher. So being down here, people notice that, but it really doesn't cause any problem whatsoever. I have had no issues with it. So that's not really a complaint to me. That's just like being nitpicky. Now, when you look at the fingerprint sensor though, it works really well. It's super fast, especially for an optical one. It works really well, just like the S21 Ultra, very quick. You don't have to worry about keeping your finger there for a long time. It works well. And then you've got facial recognition technology. It works really fast and zippy too. There you go. So you've got all that built into the phone, all the modern stuff you could ask for. And they even, like I said, they threw in the IP68. That was really important to some people. Performance, Snapdragon 888. It is super fast and it has OxygenOS. People have talked about overheating issues. I have only experienced an overheating issue one time, and that was when I went to go fly my drone outside. It was 90 degrees outside, and my phone was sitting on the ground, face up, with the screen up, absorbing all that heat for like 20 minutes, and I turned it on, and it's like, oh, your phone is overheated. Well, yeah, any phone is going to do that if you leave it out in the sun, especially with this black canvas of a screen absorbing all of the heat and the sun's rays. So, in using my phone, I have not overheated it. I have shot a lot of pictures, I shot some video. No problems there. I have noticed sometimes it will get a little laggy, and here's one thing it does. If you use the camera a whole bunch, especially outside, and it seems like it might be getting a little warm, it will lag the camera a little bit, and then when you turn the screen off and turn it back on, even if it's on max brightness, it'll still be kind of dim, and it takes a minute to kind of warm back up to full screen. So that's kind of weird. I've encountered that a few times, but hopefully that's something they can fix with the software update. The Snapdragon 888 processor is inherently hot. It's a very powerful processor. There's no active cooling on these things, so it's something that you might run into if you're using it on a really hot day, which we haven't really experienced yet because this phone came out in the winter. So we'll see how that goes moving forward. Hopefully they can find a way to mitigate it without throttling the processor. Like Samsung. Samsung likes to throttle the processor. They have that enhanced processing turned off so that it's not using it at 100%. So OxygenOS, running that, it's great. Based off of Android 11, I really enjoy this phone. Super fast, super zippy. And then you get the beautiful 120 hertz refresh rate, which gives you all the nice, smooth experience on the phone, especially when you're doing things like Pinterest, you're doing things like Twitter. Your feed is super smooth. It looks really nice, and it's very enjoyable, especially for playing games and stuff like that. And it's a great device for gaming. You get a top-notch gaming experience because you have the most powerful processor in the Android world, so you can run everything pretty much maxed out. Now, there are limitations to where certain apps have not programmed to exploit that yet. So when I was playing like League of Legends Wild Rift, it was still limited to 60, but as they update it, it will get up to 120, just like the Samsung, just like the Asus, all the other phones. It just takes time for the developers to get them supported for the phone. Now, on a day-to-day usage perspective, I enjoy using it. The typing experience is nice. I think it was better on the 8 Pro. Like, I really enjoyed the OnePlus 8 Pro typing experience. The haptic feedback, the form factor. I like it just a little bit more than this, but I don't really have any complaints about this one. It has been noted that with the hit detection and stuff, it seems like it kind of mutes some of the typing experience as you get further out. So when you type further out on the keyboard, sometimes it feels like it's not as snappy or register as quickly all the time whenever you're typing. So you kind of get used to that. It's just the way that it's built in with the keyboard. It has to do with the curved edge display and like the edge detection and stuff like that, at least from my understanding and from what I've seen other people talk about. But I have noticed that there are some times it doesn't pick up the letters, or you might have to be a little bit more precise with hitting them to get some of them to pick up. As far as impacting the day-to-day typing experience, very seldom does it really bother me, but you can tell that it's not quite the same as other Android phones, and it has to do with the edge detection because of the curved edge display, and I believe that's what it's from. The display is beautiful, bright, brilliant. It can throttle down the refresh rate on the screen so it's refreshing less times per second. So when you have like a static image like this, it doesn't need to keep refreshing it to make it smoother because it's not moving. Well, that's fine, but I haven't really found that that saves any battery life. I mean, the battery life on here, like I said, it's about average for a Snapdragon 888, but it's nothing to write home about. The best redeeming factor is how quickly you can recharge it, and for most people, it should last all the way through the day anyway. but for power users, yes, you're definitely gonna have to top it up sometime in the afternoon and the evening. The camera's on here. So I think the most disappointing thing with this phone is probably the selfie camera. It has an older 16 megapixel camera in here. It's only capable of 1080p at 30 frames per second on video, and it doesn't always look the greatest. And the selfie camera, as long as you've got great sunlight, as long as it's a very good, nice, bright lit environment, you can take good selfies. But as the light goes down, the quality diminishes because of the sensor. It should be better. This is the only real big ding that I have. They needed to really hammer it home with the selfie camera. They did not. Now, is it perfectly capable? Yeah. Does it look good? Most of the time, yes. But that's where it falls off the most when you look at Apple and you look at Samsung as a comparison. On the back, you have a 48 megapixel camera, primary shooter. You've got a 50 megapixel ultra wide, and you got an 8 megapixel telephoto capable of 3.3 times optical zoom, and a 2 megapixel monochrome sensor to help absorb extra light, which really helps out a lot in low light. Excellent low light photography. I think it takes good pictures all around. One thing you will need to know though is when you're taking pictures, it will automatically shift over to macro mode with the ultra wide when you start getting too close to things. So you'll notice a definite shift in the way the image looks once you get so close to an object, and that's because it's kicking in that auto macro. Now you can turn that off, but when you get closer, of course, things will get blurry like normal. You'll have to adjust it and turn it back on. But it does take good shots for a macro lens using the ultra wide, and then the primary shooter I think is perfectly good. And one thing I actually like about it a lot is the sound of the camera shutter. So it has the old Hasselblad camera sound. Let me turn my volume on here so you can hear it. So you can hear this. I like that. So you get the old-fashioned clunky camera shutter sound. But I think it takes really good photos, and I think the video is good too. It shoots 8K video on the back, but it's limited to 7 or 8 minutes because it'll overheat. That's really why they do that. So they limit that. Also file size too. 8K is 600 megs per minute that you're recording. So that's really substantial. It does shoot 4K at 60 on the back though, which I think is very good. And I've had no complaints when taking pictures with it. And a lot of people have complained about taking pictures of moving objects or your kid or your dog that moves around. I don't really find that that's that big of a deal. It does seem like there's a slight delay from when you take the picture to when you see it on the screen, but that's because of the image processing, not when it's actually capturing the photo. I have a whole review on the camera. You can click on it, check out the link right here, go watch that. You can see 50 different pictures that I took using the ultra wide, using the primary, using the portrait, and it shoots portrait mode on the front and on the back, which is really nice. I really like the camera. I like the Hasselblad cooperation. I like the color profile. It looks very unique. It definitely stands out from Apple and Samsung. They have their own very natural color profile, much like an LG camera in the past, and I think that they're sharp looking photos. I think that OnePlus did a really good job here. Go check out the other video, see it for yourself. You will see how good the pictures are and what it's capable of. So look at that. Don't listen too much to the negative sentiment. It's not what it's panned out to be. But overall, I like this phone a lot. I think that it's definitely worth the price. Yeah, it starts off at about $969, which is a spicy meatball, if you can even find the phone. I don't even know if they're selling the 128 yet with the 8 gig model, but you can get the 256 and the 12, which is what I have, $1069. I think that it's worth it. They don't have as many incentives as Samsung does, so it actually does come out being a little bit more expensive now than the S21 Ultra, because the S21 Ultra on launch was $1199, but you can find them most places at $999 now. So it's a harder sell. The Samsung, I think, is a more complete phone. The S21 Ultra, I think overall, technically on paper, is a better phone. Does that mean it's a more enjoyable experience? No. This brings a lot to the table. The cameras, very, very good, very unique, very good saturation, very realistic look to them. I like it a lot. I appreciate it. The performance, OxygenOS, super zippy, super fast. They're always updating it to fix things, and it's probably my most enjoyable version of Android that's on here. And then the 120 hertz Quad HD Plus, it's a beautiful phone. You've got everything you could possibly ask for here, and I think my most favorite thing is the 65 watt charger. I love being able to recharge this 29 minutes from 1 to 100%. For people like me who are always using the phone, who are killing it by mid-afternoon, mid-evening, being able to have that lifeline to zap it and charge it in 15 minutes to get 50% battery, totally amazing. And that's why I really don't want to put my SIM card back in my Samsung. Even though I have the S21 Ultra, right here, I prefer using the OnePlus 9 Pro. So And I wasn't paid for this at all. This is not sponsored. This is not something that I'm getting paid for. They're not getting to see this before you are. It's just me checking out the phone. And I bought the S21 Ultra, and I would much rather use the OnePlus 9 Pro over the Ultra. The only nice leg up with the Ultra though is I really like the S Pen. If OnePlus could one day find a way to get an S Pen, that would be really nice. Or a stylus, not an S Pen, because that's Samsung. But yeah, I think it's a really good phone. If you're interested in it and you want to pick one up, I think that you'll like it. I don't know anyone who's got one that's been like, oh, I hated this phone and I returned it. Yeah, if you like Samsung, probably stick with Samsung. If you like Apple, stick with Apple. If you want an alternative to Samsung, if you want something that's really good, a very unique phone, OxygenOS, top notch, the charging, the power, everything you can ask for, I think it's a good phone. I enjoy it a lot. So that's all I've got on this review. If you have any questions or comments about the OnePlus 9 Pro, please feel free to leave them down in the comment section. I'll get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.